Good evening and welcome. I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Nevada City Council to order. Today's Wednesday, March 25th, 2026. It's 6:30 p.m. We'll start with the Nisenan tribe recognition, and I'm going to ask Councilmember Fleming to read the land.
I would love to. We acknowledge that the Nisenan people are still here among us today, though nearly invisible. We understand that we are on Nisenan land that was never ceded from the original tribal families, and the original tribal families have yet to recover from the near genocide of their people. As a resident or visitor in Nisenan land, we support the Nevada City Rancheria tribe in efforts to stabilize their people as well as their campaign to restore federal recognition.
Thanks, Doug.
You're welcome.
Could I ask our Vice Mayor to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Certainly. Please join me in our pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Deputy City Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Peterson,
Here.
Councilmember Fleming,
I am here.
Councilmember Fernandez,
Here.
Vice Mayor Sisi,
Here.
Mayor Klein.
I'm also here. Council, now is the time for any agenda modifications. Would you like to make any additional changes to the agenda, pull consent items, or do we have any recusals to announce?
There is a consent item for which I need to recuse myself, the sign with the park. So I can approve everything but that. I live within 500 feet of the park. You can't vote. Right, Dean?
How best shall we do this, Dean?
So the motion would just indicate a motion of approval for items, all the items excluding that item, all the other items excluding that item for Councilmember Peterson.
Oh, yeah?
I move that we exclude the item concerning the SSI sign in Pioneer Park.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion from the Vice Mayor and a second from Councilmember Fernandez. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So when we come to that, Dean, that's a separate item and Gary has to loop.
No, it was not pulling the item. It was just the council can approve the consent calendar. It just would indicate that the item, which item was it, Eric?
Number 3.
Number 3 was not voted on by Councilmember Peterson.
We're good.
Okay. No presentations tonight, so we'll start with public comment. Government Code Section 54954.3 provides that any member of the public may address the City Council on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow the council or staff to discuss issues brought forth under public comment. The council cannot take action on non-agenda items. Concerns may be referred to staff or placed on a future agenda. Please note that comments from the public will also be taken on the consent calendar and each agenda item at the time it is heard. Do we have any public comment on non-agendized items? We do. Welcome.
Welcome. Hi. My name is John Paul. I live at 416 Broad Street in Nevada City.
My name's Rod Taylor. I live at 629 Spring Street in Nevada City.
And we're here on behalf of Laughterschaft Improv, and we want to bring attention to both city manager and the council that there's something all over social media today, and we wanted to offer some clarity to that. Is that we invited one of your colleagues to join us at our performance on April 10th at the Nevada Theater, and that would be Mayor Klein, and he accepted, as did Grass Valley Mayor Hillary Hodge, and they're going to be performing with us on April 10th at the Nevada Theater as part of the Nevada City Film Festival Comedy Night. And so we're really looking forward to it. And I know he can't comment on it, so this is why I love doing this. And
And John just said everything I was going to say about the fact that it's April 10th, 7 o'clock at the Nevada Theater. So we look forward to playing with you, Mayor.
Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Any other public comment on non-agendized items? Okay, moving on. Do we do this in any different way, Dean, the consent?
No.
All items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. Before we take action on the consent calendar.
And this is the consent.
Oh, I see.
Dean, what have you done?
Nothing. We were just approving the agenda.
That's what my question was.
Now we need the recusal was not necessary for adopting the agenda. The recusal is necessary at this stage for the approval of the consent.
Should we approve the first two items and then Gary stands outside, thinks about what he's done?
Just because there's no discussion on this matter, it's consent. He does not need to step outside because there is no discussion. He just can't, the motion will indicate that Mr. Peterson is not voting on item number 2.
3.
3.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar.
I move to approve the consent calendar as described.
I have a motion from Vice Mayor Sisi and a second by Councilmember Fleming to approve the consent calendar.
Public comment?
Any public comment on these consent items before we vote? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
No. Is it recusal?
Only as to items 1 and 2.
On everything except item 3.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sisi?
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes. Wonderful. All right. On to a public hearing. This is a consideration of an appeal of a planning commission decision to approve a conditional use permit for a yoga studio at 310 Broad Street. Here's Jessica Hankins, our city planner.
Thank you, Mayor Klein, council members.
Dean, do I need to say I'm opening a public hearing?
Yeah, you have a list there, Mayor.
I'm opening a public hearing. And now our city attorney is going to provide a brief overview of procedure and timing.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, for the purposes of this appeal, we will begin with staff presentation. We will allocate then 10 minutes to the applicant presentation. Accordingly, then 10 minutes to the appellant's presentation. Keep in mind, these time allocations are not set in stone. You do not need to go the maximum time for the council. We will then turn to 5 minutes for any rebuttal by the applicant, 5 minutes for any rebuttal by the appellant. The council will then turn to public comment. The mayor has indicated an indication on this item to limit public comment on the appeal to 2 minutes per person on this item. There will be no direct or cross-examination of any parties by each other, and there will be no questions allowed of the council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Hi, Jessica.
Hello again. Yes, I'm Jessica Hankins, city planner, and I will be providing staff's response to the appeal of the conditional use permit for a yoga studio at 310 Broad Street. This building is just across the street and a couple doors down where the old Earth store used to be, or by way of reference. Yeah. It seems like the sound isn't on. My mic is on. Can you hear me?
We have some, Mayor, we have someone working on the sound.
We have someone working on the sound.
Okay.
Shall we pause for a moment?
Try that other mic.
Testing.
Testing.
There you go.
There it is.
Okay, nothing I said was that important. You can see it on the slide. So I'll be presenting staff's response to the appeal of the yoga studio at 310 Broad Street. By way of background, the Planning Commission approved a use permit for a yoga studio at this location in January of this year, after the applicant applied for it in December of 2025. During the Planning Commission hearing, some members of the Planning Commission noted some concerns with the fact that this was not a retail use, but did acknowledge at the same time that there was a retail component to the use that was presented in the application and on all of the site plans for the project, and that the project would provide some benefit to the downtown commerce with the just simple walk-by traffic, people visiting, taking classes at the yoga studio, and then potentially hanging around downtown and shopping or dining. This project is within the general business district. This is a district that covers the whole of the downtown area. And it is important to note the purpose of the district. It is to provide a location for the sale of commodities, performance of services, repair facilities, tourist-oriented sales, and other types of general enterprise. This project is consistent with the purpose of the general business district in that respect, and that it is general enterprise. Before the commission can approve a conditional use permit, as I go through the next 2 slides here, which present the appeal points, it'll be important to keep these findings in mind. Before the planning commission can actually approve a use permit, they have to make certain findings. There are actually 3 findings. One is on noticing, and the project met noticing requirements. But the 2 that you might keep in mind is that the commission has given due regard to the nature and condition of all adjacent uses and structures, and that the commission may and has imposed such requirements and conditions with respect to location, construction, maintenance, and operation as the commission deems necessary for the protection of adjacent properties and the public interest. And that's straight out of our municipal code.
Next one.
Should I?
There's nothing beyond that.
Not sure what happened. You don't have it?
Uh,
It's not
just-
showing
yeah,
on the
just what I-
screen.
Just what we saved.
It's just what we saved?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll switch over. I don't know what happened. That's, you close it and reopen it. Sometimes that happens with Acrobat. Thanks. Sorry about that.
You could probably, you were gonna do the points, it's in the agenda, you could.
It's in the, yeah, and I've got it in front of me as well. So I'll just keep going while Ember tries to pull that up. There's 2 main points in the appeal. The first one is that the business is located in the historical district, and that being in the historical district, that the project could do damage to the integrity of the commerce within the historical district and the culture within the historical district. The purpose of the historical district is actually to provide architectural protections and aesthetic protections to properties. It really just is looking at the exterior of structures and not at the uses of structures. So that particular point, that's how I would respond to that point. And then the second main point that is made in the appeal is that the appellant says that the commission should have used a test that includes criteria within the principal permitted uses section of the general business district zoning ordinance. And those criteria are applied to uses that are similar enough to retail uses, which are allowed by right, that if a type of use were to meet those particular criteria, that they could just go in, that business could go into that location without any conditional use permit, and could just not get a conditional use permit. It's just allowed by right. So that is not the test that's typically used for conditional use permits. There's a different set of findings, like I just brought up in that second slide there. So generally, that is staff's response to those points, and I want to make sure I didn't miss anything since the presentation's not up here. In the summary of the arguments, there are other yoga studios in this area. It is true that there are other yoga studios in this area, but there is nothing in the zoning code that tasks the planning commission with looking at the density of specific types of uses, so they did not do that. There are other locations that would be more suitable. That may be true, but the job of the planning commission was to look at the proposed location. And then finally, there is a statement that the public benefit of retail establishments is important to the critical mass of retail throughout downtown. And I would just point out that there are many different types of permitted uses in the general business district, not limited to retail, that are allowed by right, including restaurants and service uses as well. So in your staff report, you will find the motion that is recommended for this, which is to deny the appeal and uphold the decision of the Planning Commission for the conditional use permit. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Jessica.
So procedurally, is your request, Ms. Hankins, that what you submitted in terms of a staff report, its attachments the presentation that's included in the presentation of the council be included as the record, even though it was not presented audio visually here tonight, included in the full record?
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
Mr. Mayor, are you inclined to grant that request?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Questions?
You
Public
can,
comment?
if you'd like.
If anyone has questions before we get to the applicant.
I'm going to save mine until because I try not to be on the record too much here.
Dean, did you say no questions at the top of this when you give the framework?
It's up to Mr. Mayor and it's up to the council on how you want to divvy up your time here. Typically, not questions during their time frame, time allotments, but if it makes sense to have questions, if you have them logically now, you can do it. It's up to the mayor.
I think I'll wait too.
Okay, we're all waiting. So next is the presentation by the applicant.
Wendy.
You're the appellant, I think. You're the applicant. Yes, thank you.
We have
Applicant of the
applicant up
permit.
next. Applicant.
There's
Of the
applicant.
permit.
Yes.
Sure. They should have made those words sound different. Welcome.
Thanks.
Hi.
I'm going to start your time. You have 10 minutes.
Love a timer. Soothing.
No pressure.
I know.
It's a horrible sound. Don't go over.
Hello.
We're nice.
Hi.
I'm going to be honest, I'm extremely nervous, if you can't tell. I am happy to be here and meet everybody. Part of the reason I haven't really been here in person recently is probably somewhat obvious by the very small baby strapped to my chest, whom I could not leave alone tonight, so she's here with us.
Good job.
I actually have 2 other kids, so I'm a mom of 3. She's my third. And I mainly bring that up because, you know, to me, this town matters to me and my family a lot. I've had all 3 of my kids here. I'm going to raise them here. We're not going anywhere, you know. So I feel like we all have the shared vision of a beautiful, vibrant downtown. You know, that's something that's important to me as well. And to kind of touch a little bit on the yoga studio itself. So my vision is to have a yoga studio that is great for everybody. So anyone, whether they have never done yoga before or they're, you know, a seasoned yogi, can come to my studio and find classes that appeal to them. To kind of respond a little bit on the whole, like, there's more yoga studios in town, I would argue that there are places that have a few yoga classes at best. The schedule for both of those places is very sparse, and they're, I would say, pretty niche in terms of what they're offering. Part of what inspired me to open a studio specifically was that, you know, as a mom of 3 who's really busy, and for me, I'm just looking for like a simple, grounded practice, nothing super esoteric. I just didn't find offerings in town that I super aligned with. And so that's part of my vision, is to have, you know, to be open frequently, have a really broad schedule. So my hope is that regardless of, you know, your lifestyle and circumstance, there'll be a class that you can attend. And as far as like the offerings, you know, one of the things that really I'm proud of to offer is something that makes yoga more accessible as well. So if you see on the architecture plans, we've actually put in these really big beams so that we can hang aerial yoga slings. And it's not for every class by any means, but it's something that will help bring accessibility to yoga. So if you're dealing with an injury or any other kind of, you know, limitation in mobility, and if you're pregnant, you know, for me in my 3rd trimester, it was super hard to move my body, and I found it to be one of the only ways for me. So it was inspiring for me to make sure that, you know, there's offerings even to that end of the spectrum. So as far as offering it to a lot of people, I think it's going to cover it there. And then as far as the storefront goes, you know, the retail frontage was always part of the plan. It's not new. And specifically, I've been inspired by like a lot of folks I know in the community that are local artisans, creators. We have so much in this town that people create right here, and I'm really excited to sell that. So that's my highest priority, is as much local handmade stuff as possible. And then beyond that, focusing on, you know, stuff that fits the essence of Nevada City. And then as far as like the foot traffic bit, I believe that yoga is an anchor to the downtown. So not only will it drive foot traffic, but I believe it will keep people in downtown. You know, people are going to come, they're going to get coffee at Communal, they're going to go to their class, they're going to meet their friend to shop briefly, and then go, you know, to lunch and maybe stay after that too. So I believe it brings even more foot traffic, I'd argue, than maybe even just retail alone. And I think it brings a unique type of foot traffic. It's repeatable, and it's consistent. So it's bringing people into the downtown over and over and over again who may otherwise not be coming into the downtown. And then, okay, great, doing great. As far as timing, or as far as the building goes, you know, it's hard to open a business in downtown. The buildings are very old. My building alone had a significant water leak in the back causing rot. The front beams are rotting and falling apart. The front windows are leaking. Like, I could go on, but I don't have that much time. So, you know, I'm happy to be putting like my own energy, love, money into this building to restore a beautiful building in downtown, you know? And so I think that that's an important thing to note as well. You know, it's hard because if you can't afford to do all that, you may not be able to buy a building downtown. And, you know, especially for retail only, like I would argue personally that it's quite hard to survive as just retail. So I feel like the hybrid approach is actually going to help my business as a whole. I can bring in income from the yoga and also the retail, which I think is a great approach for a business personally. Oh, and also, I wanted to note this. The appeal made it sound like I kicked out the Earth Store, and I want to say on record that is not true. One of the most important things to me when I was looking for a building downtown is I was never going to kick someone out. That was the #1 priority to me. I have no interest in taking someone, especially the Earth Store that has been here forever, and booting them. That's not the vibe I'm going for. I didn't even look at the building until they had moved out, and from what I'm told, they moved out, they found cheaper rent. And I'd argue a way better storefront. For retail, it's like huge windows. Like, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a much better footprint, I think, for their business. The building I'm in is like, you know, super long, very narrow. I would say it's not even like the best for retail alone, but I'm gonna try and make it work, you know? So anyways, in closing, I'm really excited to hopefully open up a yoga studio. And I think it will be, I trust that if you give it some time, that you'll all see it is going to be vibrant, open, bustling, and a great addition to the downtown.
Yay.
That's all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kat.
Nice work.
Thanks. Bye.
I'll come to that. Make me part and push it. Dean's gonna smack it on it.
Now it's time for a presentation by the appellant.
Appellant. Appellate?
I'd rather just have a conversation.
Well, this is a
You
conversation.
can do that too. We just can't talk back.
Okay. Hi, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I want to first off thank everybody in this room and everyone that this appeal touches, because I have empathy for Miss Kat, and I am inspired by her vision. And I'm sure it's very stressful to be put on pause for us to do due process. And I think it's a really important conversation that is not just my own point of view, but rather, you know, where I sit in the community, both as a shop holder downtown and as well active in other aspects of the community, former planning commissioner, and also involved in the Chamber of Commerce. I hear from a lot of people. I intended to introduce myself, I guess I didn't, but I'm Wendy Ermshar, for those who are on screen. So, you know, I have a lot of empathy for that and, you know, the delay, but I know that we have concern about incremental decline of our kind of jewel, our crown of Nevada City that's really important. So, this is not an appeal about opposing yoga. I love yoga. I do yoga. I started practicing yoga actually when I was 16 in Nevada City, you know, before yoga was a thing. And I think it's absolutely a value to our community. If everybody did yoga, it would be a great thing. This appeal is about something broader. This is about land use compatibility. It's about ordinance consistency, and it's about the long-term economic sustainability of our downtown commercial core. So in Jessica's staff report, she spelled out the high-level components of the specific ordinance that we refer to, which is 17.40.02. It's clear about the by right use. It's also clear that this is most closely related. We agree it's a health club that requires a conditional use permit. I presume everybody had a chance to read the ordinance, and I scored a perfect score on my SAT for reading comprehension, but this did challenge my reading comprehension. There's some opportunities with the ordinance, but I think the spirit is clear. The spirit intends to maintain active storefronts, to support tourism as a mechanism for our economy and our general fund, and to preserve revenue-generating uses for the city's most valuable commercial area. That's smart planning. I don't think everybody probably had access to something I hunted down, which was some language from 2006 when the ordinance was initially adopted. And this was signed by Connolly Weaver, the mayor at the time, attested to by Kathy Wilcox Barnes, city clerk. What I want to point out is, where did I put it? I highlighted some things. The city council finds that this zoning ordinance update is necessary to protect the public's health, safety, and welfare. So there was basically kind of this emergency in August of 2005 whereby we noticed that non-retail businesses were going into important commercial locations. And there was kind of a moratorium put on that until, through a long process of bouncing back and forth between Planning Commission, public comment, City Council, all the things you guys know better than I do. This agreement, or this amendment rather, spelled out the restriction of real estate specifically, office use in general on the ground floor, and it sort of tried to add language about retail. Now, in development terms, retail can include restaurant. That's a good point. It's something that generates sales tax. You know, there's a good that is sold versus just a service. I wanted to point that out because I think in lieu of real clear language in the ordinance, you know, we remember what the spirit is. And also, it reflects well on the folks who implemented that, because it turns out that there's a successful formula for how small towns work. It's not random. It's not perfect science, but there is good theory, and there's repeatable sort of formats. By the way, I'll preface that some of what I am referring to, I've cited from a couple of places, if you care to dig in further to explore what makes successful Main Street commercial districts. There's Main Street America, which is a nationwide nonprofit organization focused on the revitalization and preservation of downtowns and neighborhood commercial districts. They're headquartered in Chicago, and they work with thousands of communities nationwide. Also, the Center for Community and Economic Development, that's the University of Wisconsin Extension in particular, which they've produced some of the most practical and widely used studies on small town downtown vibrancy. So that's where I'm getting some of this and distilling for you. In addition, what I might add to my bio, I don't like to brag about myself, I have a career in restaurant and retail. My last job, I was with a $1.5 billion organization for 11 years. A substantial portion of that, I had responsibility for selecting out site locations for stores that would sell $2 to $3 million each. And so I went through the rigor and the analytics of analyzing co-tenancies, demographics, all of the things to get an eye for like what makes retail work. And there's a synergistic relationship between the mix and also definitely location. So across planning and economic development best practices, there's 5 elements that consistently define a strong commercial district: a strong retail core, active ground floor storefronts, active meaning they're permeable, you can just come in, a balanced mix of uses for interests and diversity, a cohesive visitor experience that balances the art and other services, and an economically productive space. So economically productive space means per square foot, what are they doing? Like, are they selling a lot of stuff? Are they generating a lot of revenue? Retail and dining tend to be the engine of that system because they create foot traffic, browsing, cross-shopping, and a lot more tax-generating activity. So it's the type of scenario that allows visitors to park and explore. When you think of your favorite towns to visit, cute towns, there's a good chance that what most of us are doing is we're going out to eat and then we're strolling around and popping into shops. As far as business mix, that matters for sure. And best practices for small downtowns consistently show that retail and food should make up conservatively 60% to 80% of ground floor uses on primary streets. Other uses, including wellness and service businesses, are important, but they are intended to peripherally support, not occupy the core. I would say that the proposed yoga studio site, former location of the Earth Store, is right in the core. What happens when you have service-based, appointment-oriented uses in prime frontage, what happens is they interrupt the retail continuity. We're all familiar with something like this. What is the Deer Creek restaurant called now?
Deer Creek.
Creekside.
Bar and Grill.
I don't have the data on it. I would venture to guess that it has turned over more than any other restaurant in town. And you have a perfect example of a break in continuity, which is called the freeway overpass. Also, there was somewhat recently a vintage store that tried to do retail over there, and she couldn't make it. You know, the bridge was being built, that might be a factor. But I know before that was happening, she was having a hard time getting people across the bridge. This happens even here at Broad Street. So I can be in my shop and I can pop out and I can have people starting to go up the street and they look up and they go, is this the end of it? And so places like the Mellow Plant Shop, places like the Parsonage, you know, they're really hurting from having residences, offices, service-oriented places in place. Some of those are what would you say? Some of them have a right to be there, the services. I would say we don't need to conditionally, approve more than what are already allowed. I don't think that is to the benefit of the public. So the economic reality, is that I have 17 seconds. My ask is that you reconsider and push this back for amendment to the Planning Commission. We need more framework on hours of operation. I would propose it goes on the second floor.
Thanks, Wendy.
Okay. Shoot, I didn't get to practice.
10 minutes. All done.
Thank you, Wendy. We'll have applicant rebuttal for 5 minutes. You've changed.
For the time being.
Hi, my name is Brandon Ramirez. I'm the husband of Kat, who will be the main owner and manager of the yoga business. I want to thank you guys all for your time. I want to thank Wendy. This has been an interesting lesson in civics. This is my first time addressing the city council. I think the planning director sort of already addressed the points around the letter of the law when it comes to the zoning codes and the municipal codes, and so I'm not going to go over those points again, but I think Wendy's broadly making a point that I understand as kind of being about the spirit of some of those zoning codes. And if I could restate what I heard, I kind of think it comes down to an argument around economic dynamism of the downtown, as well as sort of I heard sales tax mentioned, so some mention of the retail tax, the tax base of the city. Addressing the first point, I think Kat kind of covered a lot of that about how yoga studios specifically improve dynamism. You know, with respect to these codes, I could totally acknowledge there's probably a lot of non-retail, non-restaurant uses on the ground floor, for example, office space, that probably wouldn't drive dynamism. But the impact of fitness centers on malls and shopping areas and downtowns has been well studied. There's one study by the International Council for Shopping Centers, ICSC, that actually showed that fitness centers boost consumer visits to retail establishments in the surrounding mall by about 2.5%, just as an example of some hard data on how there's all these spillover benefits for the retail establishments, for the restaurants, et cetera. And as Kat mentioned, these visits tend to be at off-peak hours. So it actually is driving dynamism to the downtown at a time when maybe the restaurants, maybe the retail spaces normally wouldn't be driving that kind of economic activity. In reference to the sales tax argument, I think, and the tax revenue argument, I do think it's outside the scope of what the letter of the law of these zoning codes were. But I will note that, you know, the tax base of the city is broad. There is a sales tax base. There is a transient occupancy tax base. There is a property tax base. I would argue that a yoga studio, in improving the dynamism and the quality of life in the downtown, actually indirectly increases all three of those big tax buckets, which are the majority of the general fund. So, you know, I believe that the National Exchange currently has deferred taxes, but certainly the National Exchange guests will be a short walk away from this yoga studio. People living, you know, in the beautiful Victorian homes, you know, north of downtown can easily walk to this yoga studio. And I would argue that that increases property values in addition to, you know, the spillover benefits to these retail spaces. Last point that I'll note, just on sort of the diagnosis of like some of the dynamism problems that maybe Nevada City is or isn't experiencing. I think it would be wrong to attribute that to specific services-based or wellness businesses in the downtown. I think this is a really difficult macro environment for small business and for small towns. It's funny Wendy mentioned the Creekside Cafe building, because we actually have some personal experience with that building. We tried to buy it and we also tried to rent out of it. It was one of the buildings that we looked at. And in our experience, both the rent prices and the asking price for the building itself were sort of anchored on market values of 5-6 years ago when interest rates were at 0%. And this is also something that's well studied in small towns, is that property values and rents tend to be sticky. When things like interest rates go up, property owners are slow to sort of acknowledge the market reality that, hey, rents need to come down, or that property values need to come down in lockstep. And so you see this dynamic where you get periods of higher vacancies, but I don't think that is attributable to, certainly not to a yoga business, and I would argue it's not primarily attributable to the businesses that are currently downtown causing that issue. And I'll take back the remainder of my time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Appellant rebuttal.
Oh my gosh.
5 minutes.
Well, I was like in the middle of a sentence. Could I pick up there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, no, not yet. Hold on, please. It's interesting. You can start, but it's interesting because, you know, each time I hear somebody contribute to this conversation, it makes me want to respond to what they just said, and you know, I forget what I wanted to say before. So there is language specifically in the ordinance that says the Planning Commission will consider the welfare of the adjacent, the neighbors, you know, the other folks. It is not to the benefit of neighbors if a door is closed. This is something that I hear about a lot. So the retail continuity that I was telling you about that's so critical can happen either because there's something that doesn't exist, like the old Katarina's building is closed, or it could be because there's something that is inaccessible to the public. And that creates the sense of there's nothing to do here. On the broader scheme, you know, just one spot at a time, when people go through the drive to get here and then the effort to park, and there's not that much to do, they're not that inclined to come back. Now, thankfully, we're not there yet, but this is where I hope we don't find ourselves. In response to the idea that people go to yoga classes either spontaneously or then go shopping, I find that to be absolutely false. Or hair salons, for that matter, which is a permitted use. I will see people who are getting their hair done and they will go, oh, I'm so embarrassed. I can't shop right now, but do you have new stuff? I want to come in. I can't come in. Or same thing with leaving a yoga class from one of the yoga studios we already have, that they're sweaty and gross and embarrassed to go shopping. They might grab a coffee. So I just find that to be not true. I also don't believe it drives tourism. I can tell you that about 50% of my business is tourism. So about 50% of my customers for sure will not be going to that yoga studio. If I were going to put in my own yoga studio, let me put it this way, I wouldn't put it there. There's a challenge with parking to have 20 people showing up for a class at once. It's a totally different parking pattern. And I think there's really good spots for it, like on the second floor. I think it'd be beautiful to have a robust athleisure store downstairs that had regular business hours, someone fully staffing it versus some sort of mixed idea. Now, we're down the road pretty far, and I don't suspect that this council has appetite to tell a property owner that they can't have their dream all the way that they want it, or at least most of the way. So in my opinion, the CUP should not be granted, period. But if it is to be granted, it needs some additional love. We need something in the conditions that spells out a stricter, shorter timeline for expiration. The Planning Commission was thoughtful enough to put in, because there's concern, right? There was concern, well, it probably should be retail, and yet here we have somebody who bought the building that wants to do this. And so one of the only condition of approval was that if there ceased to be a yoga studio for a year, the conditional use permit would expire and any, tenant thereafter would have to reapply. My opinion is it should be immediate, and each business should be considered in and on its own. The other condition would be spelling out some sort of business hours. I think that we did a much better job on the Wolfcraft project, that application. We saw real square footage. We saw real hours of operation. And if you've all watched the Planning Commission meeting from January 15th, Kat, you did a great job representing yourself here. She had her architect who maybe was less informed, but there really wasn't much concrete confirmation. I did have the chance to meet with Kat and her lovely team in advance of this meeting, probably a month ago now. And at that time, they were still unclear about how much revenue they'd be doing in retail, how much square footage it would get. And I think that stuff is really important because the door needs to be open. That's it.
Thanks,
I think you're going to hear more of it.
Before we move on to public comment, Jessica, is there anything you'd like to add?
I would just add in response to the hours of operation and the amount of retail that was part of the project that was represented in the project application as 9 to 6, Monday through Saturday, and the area of retail was shown on the site plan. So those are the plans, and that was the project that the Planning Commission reviewed and approved, even though that is not apparent in the conditions of approval.
Gotcha. Thank you. All right, we're going to open public comment for this. Reminder that your speaking time will be limited to 2 minutes, and the sound that this machine makes when you hit 2 minutes is horrendous. Please form an orderly line.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, in reviewing the website regarding these meetings, I was under the impression that this public comment would be 3 minutes long. Is there any possibility we can open that to 3 minutes tonight?
I think given the volume that we're expecting and the other items that we have to get to, we're going to limit it to 2, so.
Believe me, I've sat in your chairs till almost midnight before myself, so I understand. Okay, I'm ready. Okay, my name is G. Patrick Dyer. I'm speaking in support of Wendy's opposition to this as presented. I did have a 3-minute presentation, so I'm going to edit it on the fly. First of all, a little history. 310 Broad Street was my first place of business, which my wife Diane and I opened our jewelry store, Utopian Stone, in 1974. This is the exact building we are now discussing. We conducted the first 16 years of retail business in Nevada City in that location, and we now operate at 301 Broad Street in our 52nd year in business in Nevada City. I was elected to the city council while operating from that first location and served as mayor twice in that 4-year term. I took a hiatus from the city council and was reelected in 1997 when I ran again. My point is that I've been in your chairs and I know what you're going through. I do oppose the use of ground floor premium retail space in the historical district for anything other than retail. The upstairs at 310 Broad Street, as Wendy recently stated, I think is an ideal location for the yoga studio. It would be bigger, and then open up the downstairs for yoga-related arts and so forth that has been represented by the applicant, and I would approve that. I would support that. So I think my time is up. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gene.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. My name is Keith Logan. Lived here for about 28 years. I am 80% hard of hearing, so I apologize if I don't hear all of the comments. What we have here is right now that your position, a little bit of data first. The sales tax, main thing, 30 to 40% of Nevada City's general fund revenue typically comes from the sales tax, since police and fire departments combined account for over 50% of general fund expenditures. That's a big chunk. Prop 172, 0.5%. This is a statewide half-cent sales tax distributed to counties exclusively for public safety, police, and fire. And there is also Measure C. Sales tax is a very big portion of how we find police and fire and the district attorney. Your position as council members, as difficult as many of your choices may be, your duty is above the needs of any individual, even when those needs are noble, in this case they are, and good, as this case seems to be. Your duty is to the needs of us, of the community, the well-being of the city and the community. Your decision may be also more informed by the current conditions. We just lost a key retail entity, J.J. Jackson's, being replaced by a pottery studio, effectively a 90% loss of that sales tax. The timing of this particular investment for this wonderful individual might not be the best. It might not be the best time. I would certainly encourage you to, as much as I love yoga, I do not think it's a wise business decision, economic decision, for those things that the community absolutely relies on. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Leanne Brooke. I've been a community member for about 45 years now in Nevada City. I've had 2 businesses for about the same amount of time, graphic design, and I also had an art gallery in town for 5 years. Most interesting, I had the opportunity to serve on the Business Improvement District in 2006. I believe it was 2006. Pat served with me. We were responsible for the benches in town, the planters in town, creating more vitality and trying to increase tourism in a responsible way. We also were responsible for the first art walk in our area, and also for implementing the retail-only businesses on the street level, which was then incorporated into the General Business District Ordinance in 2006. We were involved in improving the vitality of downtown Nevada City for both tourists and locals alike. I had an art gallery where I saw firsthand who the customer was to Nevada City. After I had worked in this business improvement district, suddenly I was part of retail. And I would see people from out of the area, in the area. What they were coming for was the vitality that Nevada City had, the unique historic buildings, the way that we open up our doors beyond business hours, where we actually would have community events. We had monthly art receptions at the gallery, openings, music. People absolutely love it. People do not want to shop online, given the choice. They want to come for the experience of Nevada City. And part of that experience is not only...
Thank you, Leah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Anyways, I'm a supporter here.
Hi, Leah.
Greetings, City Council members. My name is Leah Davis. I am the former owner of the Earth Store located at 310 Broad Street. I operated the business for 25 years. I'm quite concerned that there appears to be a lack of understanding regarding what truly attracts tourists to Nevada City. It is the retail shops and great restaurants that draw visitors to our town. Yoga studios are wonderful, and in fact, yoga is what brought me here 35 years ago. Thank you, Ananda. However, the unique shopping and dining experiences are what sustains tourism and the local economy. While yoga studios are valuable to our community, dedicating central retail locations to non-retail businesses such as yoga studios diminishes the distinctive shopping experience that brings tourists here and supports our economy. When retail spaces are replaced by service-oriented businesses, there is often a decrease in foot traffic to neighboring shops. Additionally, the city loses much-needed sales tax revenue as a result of these changes. I am unsure how the business was able to circumvent the general commercial ordinance that requires retail on the ground floor in the business zone. Furthermore, ongoing traffic issues will need to be addressed. Real estate agents, I think, should be required to inform clients about the city ordinance mandating first floor retail. I hope someone on the city council can provide clarification on this matter. In this challenging business environment, I truly empathize with the merchants who are preserving and keeping things going. Reducing retail opportunities adds another burden to those working so hard to maintain Nevada City as a destination for visitors. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Leah.
Hello, Adam. Hello, everyone. I'm Stuart Baker, former director of the Nevada City Chamber of Commerce. I'm not speaking in that role, obviously, but I am speaking from my experience running a business improvement district in Berkeley, California for 5 years previous to that. What I saw is what we tried so hard to do was get people to the district, and that was an overarching goal. And the mix of different activities to draw different types of people really made the difference. So I feel that, for example, we had a climbing gym go in where a retail store was, and it actually boosted the neighboring businesses there. So I think it is possible with the right mix, and if it's thoughtful, and if you do have, as expected, to have a retail component to the project, I think there is a lot of potential. But I think you really have to look at the bigger picture and see what is bringing people, what do people want right now? And I think being in retail right now is one of the hardest jobs around because it is a really tough environment. It's a harder job than I think I could ever do, but it's also important to look at the bigger picture and see what brings people to town and what makes people stay, and remember Nevada City. I mean, a lot of the events that we did at the Chamber was about bringing people to town and reminding that Nevada City is a destination that they have to keep in mind. And when they have reasons to go there, I think it lifts all boats. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Stuart.
Thanks, Stuart.
Good evening. I'm Will Ford, a Nevada City local, lifetime, and the contractor for the yoga studio across the street. I wanted to get up and speak to the fact, I've heard a few times about is there retail or not? We've framed in the retail space. It is real, it does exist. It's 320 square feet. It has new lighting and sound to it. We're improving the display windows so there's proper displays facing the downtown Broad Street area. It is good for the town, what we're doing over there. I estimate I'm going to have at least 34 tradesmen working on this project over the course of it. And I know as a local, I live on Nimrod now, I was born on Nevada Street. I like seeing things come into my town that are useful to us locals that we can come out and use. I know we don't come to town for shopping. I like to do shopping when I'm in town, if I'm there already, and buy a birthday gift if I need such a thing while I'm out or anything. But my kids are of an age where they're running into the town on the evenings and weekends and playing, and the more locals we're drawing into town, to me as a parent, the better. Yeah, that's my piece.
Thanks, Will.
Yep.
Thanks, Will.
Hey, Jordan.
Hey there. My name is Jordan Fisher-Smith. I've been a resident and homeowner and taxpayer in town for 40 years. In Carmel, Jackson Hole, and Santa Fe, Martha's Vineyard, as well as Nevada City, visitors leave their cars and stroll up one side of the main street. And when they reach a certain point, they notice it's thinning out, the businesses are thinning out, it becomes more residential, sometimes there's offices, and they don't need a sign to turn around and go back down the hill. I think the Planning Commission was wrong on this, but not because yoga isn't great and not because these aren't great people. And thank you for wanting to invest in our town. I think there is a message that a business district puts out that says, walk a little further, see what's next. And I think that the continuity and density of retail and restaurants and so on is important to that vitality. And I guess I'm talking a little bit about taxes, about sales tax revenues, which it's become something I didn't used to care about. And now that I use services and understand the city better and look at the problems the city has to face, I think more and more that the commission needs to take a look at it. Wherever this density and continuity starts to flag, we have a message basically saying, turn around and go back. And nothing, I think, probably an extreme case, but nothing demonstrates this more than what happened when the freeway went through Nevada City and the building at 101 Broad was left marooned. That's the green building with the metal roof down it. Thank you for that. Thank you. That's a short time, isn't it? Thank you. That was quick.
Hi, thank you for having me and all of us. My name is Jess Lesperance, and I am a resident here. And I just wanted to share a little bit I'm not a business owner. I don't envy some of the tough calls around balancing sales tax and the health of everyone who is already here in terms of businesses. But as a resident, I am thrilled that you all are entrusted in making decisions for the whole community, and to be able to walk to downtown and do more than spend money on a fancy celebratory meal on a Tuesday, to have more options to be able to come into town and be healthy and do exercise and kind of invest in myself and my family, I think is really something that we've been missing. And the more of that would really help with the vibrancy in ways that I don't think just looking at serving the tourist market does. So as a resident, I would encourage you to serve the residential market. We also drive maybe the other 78% of tax. I don't know, the 32 is sales. So there's also property tax, and a lot of us who love living here who hope that we can do all the things. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Kim Coughlin. I'm from Novak's Menswear that's been in town since 1956. I've been there for 37 years. And I think it's really important what Wendy's been forecasting. It's really important for all of us to have like businesses. If we don't share other stores that come around with us, it really does. One store standing alone does not do it. And again, like everyone else, I'm not against the yoga studio at all, but I think we need to keep retail downtown. Thank you for listening.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor Klein, council members, thank you. My name is, excuse me, Todd Wachowski. I own the hat store at 314 Broad Street, now operating for 45 years. And I'm speaking tonight in support of Wendy's appeal, and I want to be direct about why. The 300 block of Broad Street used to be the golden zone of retail in this town. It's starting to feel a bit like the ghost zone. And I'm asking you to look at the pattern, not just this one permit. In the past year, 3 ground floor retail storefronts in the historic core have converted or are converting to appointment-based or class-based uses. Lobos Del Mar, formerly Lobos, is now Studio Amari, which is an Oracle Art School. JJ Jackson's is going to become a pottery shop approved by CUP. And now 310 Broad, the Earth Store's home for nearly 30 years, is going to become a yoga studio. Again, I have nothing personal about these businesses. I think they're all great, and I appreciate all the effort, as everyone else has stated as well. But this is about protecting the retail character of our downtown core for the long term. The ordinance that restricts these uses exists because the city learned that lesson in 2006 with the ground floor real estate offices, and I'm asking you not to have to relearn that lesson again. Every time this council approves a conditional use permit that converts a retail storefront to a service, you're directly reshaping what Nevada City's downtown becomes, and it's a cumulative effect in the downtown with less walk-in retail leading to less foot traffic and eventually more vacancies. The city will send a business owner back to the Planning Commission 3 times over a paint color, but when it comes to the use itself, it should conform with the commercial character of the district and the existing ordinances. The types of businesses behind the storefronts matters at least as much as the color of paint on the outside. And lastly, my mirror. Thanks, Todd. Almost did it.
Leslie, I'm done.
Lastly is the last word.
Hello. Hi. My name is Leslie Barbizette. I'm a resident and I run Wolfcraft School and Collective. I currently run classes, so I have a service organization, and I've brought hundreds of students here over the last year that have enjoyed all of the places in Nevada City. A lot of hotels, a lot of retail, and so it is possible to bring people here through classes. It's been so successful that I did buy the JJ Jackson building, and I am opening an art cafe as well as a pottery studio. So just wanted to clarify, I had to do a hybrid business because retail is really hard. And if you want to make it here and make it anywhere in a downtown, a lot of times you have to do a hybrid business, and that is what they're doing, it's what a lot of people are doing, and it's what people are doing all over America. So to stay relevant, I think that that's what we have to do. Retail alone is not going to cut it. So I support them. As a local, I'm excited to take yoga and to partner with them professionally with retreats and bringing more people here. As long as we work together, small businesses in this town work together instead of fight against each other, we're going to be better and stronger. So thanks.
Thanks, Leslie.
Hi, my name is Renette Senham, and I spent 8 years sitting at that council table. And I do know that sales tax is not a luxury revenue stream for Nevada City. Property tax is capped, so we depend on downtown foot traffic, on tourists walking in and spending money, on retail that generates real recurring taxable sales. That is the foundation of the city budget. And when we replaced retail with services, a yoga studio or a pottery studio, we are not just changing what goes in a storefront. We are quietly converting our most economically productive real estate to something that generates a fraction of the revenue. And consider the parking. Every space taken by a yoga class is a space a retail customer can't use. In downtown, where parking is already scarce and precious, that's not a minor trade-off. That's a direct hit to the foot traffic this city depends on. And we already have empty storefronts downtown. The erosion isn't coming, it's here. And here's what nobody's saying out loud. There's nothing in our code that stops this from happening again and again. No limit, no cap, nothing. So every approval like this one is made in isolation as if it's only one, but it isn't. And 5 years from now, 10 years, when we look up and wonder why downtown has stopped producing while we're raising fees and cutting services, this is the moment we'll be pointing to. I've seen how hard it is to reverse the kind of drift once it takes hold. Retail doesn't come back easily. The economics of ground floor space shift, expectations shift. Was once a thriving commercial corridor becomes something quieter and less productive. And the city pays for that gap in services, if in deferred maintenances, in rate increases passed to residents. If this trend continues, only the uber wealthy will be able to afford in Nevada City. Is this what we want? This council has discretion. So you can ask a harder question. Does this decision strengthen or weaken the long-term financial health of Nevada City? And I'm asking you to deny this application, not because of what this business is, but because of what the pattern is becoming. And also, I want to ask the city's plan to replace lost sales tax revenue as this high-performing retail is swapped out for businesses that produce a fraction of it, especially in light of rising fixed costs and major infrastructure rate increases. Thank you.
All right. Hello, my name's Annette. I actually work for the Bear Yuba Land Trust. So I was here to see that you all approved our trail race. So thank you for that. But I'm also a shopper. My entire outfit was actually purchased here on Broad Street, including these shoes from Fur Trader. So really love all the retail here. I love that I can just shop local. That's my soapbox, like shop local if you can. But I'm also really excited to see something new moving into the street. I love that they're going to be showcasing local artisans. That something I'm always trying to look for is I can buy something made locally, not just sold locally, but made locally. I am there. I have friends from the Bay. I'm from the Bay, who come up, who I've had to send to Grass Valley to do yoga because there wasn't anything here. They are the people who would hang in town. I don't do yoga, but I might do yoga if you have the right classes for me. So yeah, I'm actually really excited. I've also shopped at all the other stores everyone else here is talking about. Love all of them. I was really sad to see Tiger Alley move away. They had the vintage clothes and the records. I would love to see something like that come back. If anyone is into doing that, that'd be great. But just again, thank you for everything you do and for considering everyone's side. Appreciate everybody. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Annette.
Perfect.
Any other public comment on this?
Oh, come on, we got more public comment.
You say bio break, you're in hearing.
It's your call. You have the power.
We're going for 3 minutes.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
You live here.
Hello, Council. Bethany Celio. I'll speak as a resident who lives very close to downtown on North Pine Street, and also someone who's studied urban planning and urban design. One of my favorite authors is Jane Jacobs. She was a really great thinker and observer of cities, and one of the main core tenets of a healthy city is that it has a mix of uses. They have old buildings as another core tenet. They're short blocks, and all of those things we have as Nevada City, but we can't pretend to prescribe every little thing in a city for it to be healthy. We need to let it grow and evolve and be organic, like any healthy ecosystem is. So I'm definitely excited to see if this yoga studio is approved. I think we need things for people who live here, not just tourists, but also tourists. While they're staying here at the National or anywhere else, they can pop in, go for a class, and also shop local as well. I think it's a win-win. I don't think we should think that it's going to take away from other businesses. So thank you very much for listening, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Thanks, Bethany.
Just don't talk about it on your bio break.
Yeah. We are going to take a bio break, and then we will proceed with council comments and questions. Thanks, everyone. coming back from the break. We're going to keep this meeting going.
Hit again.
Everybody, if we could find our seats, keep our voices down. Thank you. We're going to start up with council comments and questions. Thanks for being here, Jessica. We may have questions for you. Anybody want to kick it off?
Well, I have no questions, but I just simply wanted to say very clearly, there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of attachments. It's not about appetites for decisions. It's not about how you feel about something. This is a technical process in which we're involved. And as my planning commissioner likes to remind me frequently, it's not whether I like something or not, it is how does it fit the ordinance, how does it fit the code? And that's what we're here to do tonight. So it's not about the feelings or the thoughts or even about how we think about retail in Nevada City. It's a very specific permit issue that we're dealing with. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Dan?
Sure. You know, I think we're dealing with an imperfect ordinance, which we obviously need to fix, and some of that will happen later tonight and maybe in the future. You know, there's been a lot of talk about the spirit and, you know, all these sources that we've been cited that talk about, you know, best retail mix in downtown, and I think that's all great. But we can't use those things to make our decision. You know, I would just say, in my opinion, I think that while we can disagree on how this works, a yoga studio that brings in a retail component is complying with the ordinance, essentially. We don't have a determination of how much retail has to be there. You know, it could be selling one book under our ordinance, you know? I mean, obviously, we don't want that, and that might be an issue for discussion, but you know, I think that, you know, as Will explained, there's a dedicated footprint. There's going to be retail. The hours are 9 to 6. And it's pretty clear that the way this was approved, it was based on the current ordinance, treating it like a health club. And, you know, the question is whether the findings can be made on the record. You know, I don't read this appeal as the right to rewrite downtown land use policy. I think the code needs clarification. We should address this legislatively, but this application, I think the appropriate course is to decide it under the standards we have. And then I'd add that, you know, there have been some good discussions about who shops after a yoga class. But I'm thinking, even if we have 10 people in a yoga class, taking up parking, granted, some of those people will spill over. As you know, as I think was mentioned here, there's some statistics that show that. We have some anecdotal evidence that that is the case from Berkeley. We also have some evidence counter to that from locals who are saying, yeah, you know, I don't see this as, you know, benefiting us from a retail standpoint, or you know, people coming out of yoga and going into other stores. But I think there was another point made that I really have to agree with, is that we need things for our locals. You know, our shops are 50% tourists. You know, we have things that locals can do downtown, but not a lot, you know, and the yoga studio that's open from 9 till 6 is pretty, you know, attractive in that sense. You know, so we really have to decide this issue, I think, later on, of how much retail is required. There's a lot of cleanup that needs to be done. But based on the record, I personally cannot deny this. You know, I cannot support the appeal, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say.
Thanks, Doug. Daniela?
Hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving such rich input. I've been having a lot of conversations in the last week, both by telephone and in person, and also reading public comment, and then those of you that showed up tonight. Thank you all for that. Just off the bat, I want to say that I'll be supporting the Planning Commission's decision tonight and upholding staff's recommendation to deny the appeal. I believe that is the appropriate action within the process before us. At the same time, I want to be clear that I think there are concerns raised by this appeal that are extremely valid, and they point to a need for greater clarity on our zoning code and our ordinance. That's clear to me. However, I don't think this appeal is the right vehicle for that conversation. Some public comment, Barb DeGraw, thank you for writing in, wrote, council's role in safeguarding, talked about council's role in safeguarding the city's economic vitality. And I absolutely agree with that. That is certainly part of our responsibility. But that work belongs at the council level through a broader policy discussion, not within the scope of the appeal of a planning commission decision. It's very important that we distinguish between those processes. So if we try to resolve the larger question here, I think that we risk blurring the lines of authority and undermining the process itself. And I think it's very important that we consider that. So tonight, I'm supporting the decision in front of us while also naming the need for a deeper council-led conversation about the code. And luckily, we get to have that conversation tonight on agenda item 7. So I hope folks stick around for that conversation. Thanks.
Thanks, Danielle. Mr. Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I do. I have some concerns that were raised pretty much by the staff report. And one was this couple of sentences. There appear to be several businesses within the GB district, the general business district, that do not align with current zoning and have not received a conditional use permit. This issue may be viewed as a separate code compliance matter. Jessica, was the Planning Commission aware of this when they made their decision?
We did discuss at hearing that there were other yoga studios. They were aware of that. And to be honest with you, I don't remember if we discussed whether those uses had use permits or not.
Okay.
I would have to go back and review the video.
Thank you. My other concern is that the amount of detail we go into how this business should be run concerns me. Neither the city council nor the planning commission should be writing business plans. And I really think we should take a closer look at that. Hint, hint. I like this meeting. I like this hearing. This is Nevada City at its most Nevada Cityest. We get varying opinions from articulate people, and then we five have to figure out what to do about it. To me, the issue comes down to pretty much this. Did the commission ignore, misinterpret, or violate the ordinance when they made their decision? By reading the record, I have to say I do not think they did. So then our position, I think our position is then, so what do we, the council, do? On what do we base our decision on whether or not the commission decision should stand? Are we setting a precedent here by doing that? I think that we are strictly an interpretive body at this point. We're kind of an appeal court. Was the law, the ordinance followed? I have to say yes. And in that regard, I have to deny the applicant. Appellant, not the applicant. Sorry.
Well, from the English teacher.
It's those A words.
Who came up with these words? Thank you, everybody. I thought that the appeal raised reasonable concerns. I thought that the staff report answered those. I thought public comment raised a lot of reasonable concerns. I used to have a retail business downtown Nevada City. I know how tough that is. I know how important it is that we have great stores instead of empty storefronts. In this case, this is going to be a partially retail outlet filling an empty storefront. Feels like a win. In the question of if there's an oversaturation of yoga studios downtown, I was raised by capitalists, and they ingrained in me the idea that if we have too many yoga studios, eventually one of those yoga studios will go away. And if we have the right number of yoga studios, they'll thrive. So if it's a success, that's wonderful, and it's great news for all of us. And if it's not, that's a shame, because they've clearly put a lot of love into this plan. But they've also improved the building, and the next thing that goes in there will benefit from that. That's how I feel about it. And I want to thank all my colleagues for the points they made as well. So, council action, would that just be a roll call vote? Dean? Motion.
I move that we adopt the attached resolution to deny the appeal and uphold the decision of the Planning Commission to approve a conditional use permit for yoga studio at 310 Broad Street.
I'll second that.
We have a motion from Councilmember Fernandez, a second from Councilmember Peterson. We'll do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Peterson?
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sisi?
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes. Thanks, everybody, and we will be talking more on this topic later tonight. For now, Chief Foss, if you'd like to join us, we'll move on to business. This is a consideration of approval for a 5-year agreement with Axon Enterprise for body-worn cameras, department tasers, and Axon evidence management for a total of $174,123, or $34,828 annually. Do we have a chief of police?
It's running.
He's coming.
He's holding the door.
He's a gentleman.
Yeah, exactly.
We will wait for our chief of police to stop being such a gentleman, and then we will proceed.
Sorry, everybody, I'm quite cold.
Everybody is.
It's cold. It's cold.
Watching on screen by Taser. Okay.
Hi, Chief.
Hello, Mayor, members of council. I'm bringing Jacob here with me because I'm a little off my game tonight, and he's the expert on this. So we'll talk about the contract with Axon. So what we're basically going to be going over today is some of the most important parts of modern day law enforcement. The biggest piece of Axon is the body-worn camera, just right here. And it's gone a long way since it basically was introduced, almost about 2012. So Axon is the biggest company for the body-worn camera. I'm not going to go into the specifics of it. I'm going to have Jake do that because he does know it better than me. But this thing here is virtually indestructible. It's been ran over. It's been dropped in the pool. It's been everything you could think of. What some of the most important pieces of this is we have no control of this video in here. So everything that goes through here goes through a third party, which is Axon. So when it comes back here, it's automatically uploaded into their secure data space, which is encrypted. Nobody can touch it. Even when we review it, it is all logged that our officers review it. Even if I review it, I have to put in a reason why I viewed that video, and it logs the time and the date that I did log it. And we have no control over those videos. The videos are exceedingly important in modern day law enforcement, and they have been very efficient since their introduction in modern day law enforcement. The other piece of this contract is the taser. So we could do, Mr. Mayor, if you'll sign this waiver, we could do a taser demonstration and show you how it works effectively. So with this contract, it does update our cameras every 2.5 years?
Every 2.5 years.
2.5 years, and it'll update our tasers immediately to the new model taser. Taser is a highly effective, less lethal alternative. It's, as you can imagine, it doesn't feel great, but it does completely incapacitate a suspect if it is used and used correctly, and does get good points of contact. It is fallible. It doesn't work all the time, but when it does work, it's extremely effective and has very little lasting effect. And then the final piece of the contract is our evidence.com system. Evidence.com kind of ties all this together. So anytime we do collect evidence, it's automatically logged that the officer collected the evidence. The evidence itself is stored in our evidence room, which, interestingly enough, is the most secure room in the police department. Even I don't have a key to the evidence room. So there's only one person has a key to the evidence room, and that is the evidence officer. And it's all controlled through there. And then Axon will actually register and log everything that goes in and out of that room through our evidence.com. So these are actually a lot cooler, though, than just that, and Jake can go over some of the particulars of what they do.
So anyways, when we activate the camera, they can be activated manually by double pressing the front button. It's the big button on the front. It stores 30 seconds of pre-video before we activate it of no audio. Then it goes into, as soon as we press the button, then we get audio recording on that as well. On that, anytime the new tasers, anytime we draw the taser out of a holster, turn the taser on, activate or manipulate the taser in any way, it automatically starts the officer's camera as well and keeps all of that recording. These cameras will upload the recording via Wi-Fi on select networks that we input in. The City Hall is one of those. So as soon as they get into that Wi-Fi connection, it will start uploading those videos into evidence.com, along with any log that we may have with the taser itself. So anytime that it was drawn, turned on, deployed, a warning of any sort, it logs all of those throughout the program and then stores it all into evidence.com under charts, and it brings up, like, I think it's like 15 pages of data just on the taser itself. Cameras, like Chief said, they're pretty indestructible. I've dropped them, kicked them. We've had them in the Deer Creek with the accident. We've had them dropped in buckets, and they're pretty indestructible cameras. They last the entire shift with the battery life. And evidence.com platform stores all of that with us. And like Chief said, anytime anyone looks at the camera, any footage, it is restricted. So any officer can only watch their camera footage from their own camera. Supervisors can watch all camera footage. So it is restricted as that aspect within the department as well. So.
Couple more things of note. The contract before was $23,000, a little over $23,000 annually. It has jumped up pretty substantially to $34,000 annually. And that's really with just maintaining what we have. They throw in new features that are not really optional. A couple of those features are, for example, like this will do AI dictation now. So the camera can come back, you could download it, and it will actually dictate the entire interview for us. I'm not a big fan of it. We can dictate that they don't use it, but we can't turn off that feature. It gets added. They say, oh, because of this, the camera's this much more efficient, which is true. And it's 5 years since we signed our last contract, and things haven't got exactly cheaper in the world either. So that's where we're seeing some of the inflation. The new tasers are pretty substantial upgrade as well. The current tasers basically have two different styles. Explain that, Jake, because I don't know.
So these are the tasers we currently have. They have two shots. So each one of these shoots 2 probes out at a time. You have to line up the probes on your target. The new tasers will have 10 different probes, and it fires 1 at a time. So you'll have more of a chance to get on target if you do miss. So with these ones, if you miss, then you're kind of out and you don't have this available to you to use anymore.
And the highest failure rate on a taser is the probes. So the way the probes work, you have to have 2 points of contact. So if you fire with this taser now, and only one taser makes contact with the skin, or one dart, and the other one goes off to the side, you only have another shot, and both again have to make contact. So with the 10 darts, that's highly more likely that you're going to get 2 points of contact, which will completely, whatever you say.
Complete the circuit.
Yeah, complete the circuit. Okay, any questions on it?
Yeah.
Sure. Have you had experience with a taser not
Yes, I have.
firing?
Yes, I have. I've been tased accidentally twice, and then when you go to the academy, or after the academy, you get tased at your first station. Sometimes my fellow officers thought it was funny to touch tase you every now and then, so I've been tased multiple times.
Sure, but that sounds like the upgrade is going to make it a lot safer, because if you don't hit both probes, you don't stop the target, right?
Tasers are so effective when they work, but there's many factors that can prevent them from working efficiently. Nobody in here really has thick clothing.
Heavy
on,
clothing, heavy jackets, wintertime.
Sure.
It makes them less effective.
Sure.
Because it has to, the probes themselves are only about a ½ inch, maybe at most. So you figure when it goes through any kind of clothing, you have to get that penetration into skin.
Yeah.
The electricity can jump a short distance, but it still is pretty restrictive when it comes into winter clothing.
And I would say the taser in modern law enforcement has probably saved more lives than pretty much any tool that we've introduced into law enforcement, because it has given the ability for an officer to completely incapacitate a person safely, get him into handcuffs, and when it shuts off, the interesting thing about a taser, as opposed to like pepper spray, which we seldom use anymore in law enforcement, and pepper sprays actually have been argued their constitutionality because you can't turn the paint off. If they start complying, it still hurts. Yeah. Taser, as soon as it shuts off, there's no lasting effect.
Yeah, so automatically runs for 5 seconds. Once after that 5 seconds, you have to actually manipulate it again to activate that 5 seconds again.
Excellent. So one of the things, so the first grant I wrote for Nevada County 10 years ago was for body-worn cameras. They got the grant, got the funding, and then they looked at the data storage charges. And they were more than the grant funded for the body worn cameras. So my question is, and I know there's a lot of line items here.
Oh, it's tons.
So what is the storage charge?
So they went away with only allotting so many gigabytes or a terabyte of data. Now it's just unlimited storage data.
And you just pay one flat fee?
Yep, yeah, the one fee.
And that's built into this price?
That is built into it as well.
Drastic change in where we used
So
to be.
where it does change slightly, and it's a substantial amount that they provide, is if we upload anything from outside of these devices into evidence.com, security camera footage that we get from people, that is limited on their data, but I think they gave like 13 terabytes or something like that. So it's a huge amount.
And so, what is the protocol for not recording? So when don't you record?
So it's in our policy that they're supposed to record any personal contact that could likely result in any type of community public interaction. We have almost 100% compliance on that, but the violation would be, like any violation of our policy, it would be reviewed by our supervisors, and we would determine, how much of a policy violation was this, and we would go from there. The what-ifs are kind of difficult, council member, just because if they didn't turn it on for a critical incident during the entire time, and we could prove that there was a reason for that, that would be a substantial issue.
Sure.
But in modern day policing, again, it is very surprising. Every officer that goes on the street in the last 10 years has worn a body camera, and the compliance for activating the camera is near 100%.
Yeah, well, they help both sides of the equation too. Lastly, tell me a little bit about that price increase. It seems kind of high, and is that because of the new features, or is that because they're adding
They've changed their programs around a lot. One other thing that we didn't mention, this new program, it comes with a virtual reality training for TASER skills. It's something that is just built into it, and even if we don't use it, or I tell them we're not going to use it, it doesn't change the price. It's just a package price. So that's included in there, along with, I think the data was a big one. I know when our last contract at 5 years, we actually exceeded the data, and they just kept giving us more with the expectation, because they're like, we don't want you to lose the evidence items that you already have, along with new evidence items. So that was one big change, I think, is they went to the unlimited data storage.
There is a lot of features that they did add. They allowed a lot of adjustments. What I would compare it to, though, council member, is when you go buy a new car and they throw that package on there from the dealership that you don't want, but you have no choice. Yeah, and they tack on the fee to it. And we can't say no. We tried. We tried to get out from those other things. But also, honestly, this is about 6 years since we signed our first contract. So it is a pretty big increase, but I didn't think it was too substantial, considering the tasers alone are quite expensive to buy individually, and we do get a set of new tasers, new cameras every 2.5 years, and that kind of thing.
Excellent. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Officer Rhodey.
Absolutely.
Or Sergeant. You're Sergeant now, right?
Frequency of use on the tasers.
Not high. How many do we use?
Not high. We do have a handful of deployments every year of actually deploying the probes, but part of what TASER is built in is de-escalation. So as soon as you turn it on, there's lights on it that shine, there's laser that shines, and then you have a way to do some kind of noise mechanism to draw the attention to it. And most of the time that is at most what we use the TASERs for.
If I may expand on that, just for folks at home, why might you or when would you use a TASER?
Any aggressive acts. I mean, it's one way to prevent officers from getting hurt by going hands-on with somebody that's aggressive. And a lot of times, like I said, the de-escalation alone of just seeing it with the lights and the laser, they actually subdue themselves and they just end up laying down on the ground for us. So it prevents contact on both sides.
It's
not fun.
Fairly broad where we would use it, but you would use it, let's say that somebody was running and they were a danger to the community. Our first choice would be a TASER, try to deploy a TASER. The TASER seems like sometimes it's violent. Tackling somebody on the street is violent for everybody involved, and everybody gets hurt. When you tackle somebody on the street when you're both running full speed, everybody's hurt when they get up.
Or shooting a gun.
Yeah, or shooting a gun. If it's going to be any physical altercation, the TASER would be the preferred tool. And again, almost everybody knows what a TASER is now. When I first got mine issued to me, nobody knew what it was. Now it comes out with a very bright laser, very bright lights. They know right away this is going to hurt, and they usually stop right there. So just the fact of having it and deploying it just means for us pulling it out of the holster and pointing it can de-escalate it very quickly.
Thanks, Chief. We need cameras, and tasers sound like a nice option. So,
You mentioned that nobody can touch the data. Can it be subpoenaed?
It can be subpoenaed as it frequently is subpoenaed. It depends on, well, with that, I think I'd leave it to our attorney, because that's where they can subpoena it. That's where it usually goes, to our attorney. But for most of our criminal cases, which is going to be 95+% of the cases that we are going to do, the officers are actually taken to court with them as part of their evidence of what occurred.
Could it be subpoenaed by federal agents?
So, I mean, I know where you're going with it, obviously. I don't know. It might be better a question for the attorney. But again, this would be one of those that I would imagine for the federal agent, it would be something that's of time restraint. Like, we need to know if he's here now, or subpoena could be delayed or is going to take some time to get the evidence. Now, if it is a valid subpoena, I would imagine we're going to have to turn it over, yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. My questions got answered. Is there any public comment on this? All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Do I have a motion to award the contract and authorize the city manager or designee to execute related documents?
So moved.
Second.
I'll give that one to Doug.
Thank you.
Got a motion from Councilmember Fleming, second from Vice Mayor Cece, and we'll do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yep.
Councilmember Fernandez?
yes.
Vice Mayor Cece?
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes. All right. Thanks, everybody. Hey, it's Jessica.
Back for more.
The Jessica Fest tonight.
I know.
We got the review of our 2025 Housing Element Annual Progress Report.
Boy, boy.
Are you ready for me to share?
I'm ready.
All right.
Thank you. I will try my best. Actually, let me grab my glasses.
You're funny. You're funny. All right, let's go here. Let's go here.
Clicker should work.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and council members. This is a report on our housing element. We're required by the State Housing and Community Development Agency to prepare an annual progress report every year on our housing element implementation. We're currently in the 6th cycle housing element that covers the years 2019 to 2027. Was I pointed there?
It's okay. Yeah.
Can you do it? Okay. By doing this, we maintain our state housing element certification, and that qualifies us for state grants. So it is an important thing that we're doing here tonight. One of the things that we look at in our progress is, have we met or made progress toward our regional housing needs allocation? For this cycle, our allocation was 135 units, of which 52 are designated lower income. Next slide.
That was 175.
Over the previous 5 years, we've actually constructed 94 housing units out of the 135 required, and of those, 60 were lower income. So we've actually exceeded our lower income housing allocation, which is excellent, excellent work. And we have secured funding for the Cashins Field Affordable Housing Project, which was constructed. We've updated our zoning code to reduce constraints to housing production. We've prepared a surplus land inventory to determine suitability for residential development, hired a code compliance officer, which was one of our programs there, and adopted a climate adaptation and public safety element. In just this past year, next slide, we sponsored a joint housing workshop, which I think many of you were at, with developers and regional agencies to coordinate housing development opportunities. We are in the process, almost done, with completing pre-approved ADU plans for the community so they can get over-the-counter permit approvals. And we are in the process of updating ADU regulations as well. You should actually see those here. They were approved by the Planning Commission a couple weeks ago, and they should be coming to you very shortly. And we have reallocated some of our REAP grant to our 7th cycle housing element, which is coming up. Next slide. That is my summary of our annual progress report. So this item can be opened for public comment, and then consider any public comments, and finally approve the report for submission to HCD. That's it.
Thanks, Jessica. Do we have any public comment on this item? I'm going to give them another 10 minutes. Hearing none.
You think there's any chance that somebody's going to get real about the RENA numbers one of these days? No, huh?
Yeah. I believe we sent a letter. We haven't heard back.
Yeah. Okay.
How'd that work out?
Just for those, we're assigned the numbers, I just know them as RENA numbers. You had it right. What is the acronym?
Yes. RENA's Regional Housing Needs Allocation.
And the state sets really high numbers, which we're not required to meet. We're not required to meet those numbers. We are required to have a plan to meet those numbers, which is very different. And but the numbers, we did a very good job in this period. I just want to say that really, really excellent job. Few other areas probably were as successful as us in meeting those numbers, small communities. But then we get the new numbers that are just like from outer space. So it's just a challenge. But I think we've done really well. Thank you.
I had the same reaction, Gary. I looked at those numbers and I said, where are we going to pit those 334 people? And on what land are we going to build their houses? It just seems an unreasonable process to get to such an unreasonable number. Sorry.
The Grove, Gracie Commons, the HEW property, there's a lot of infill that we could put a number of people. I couldn't disagree with my two colleagues more. Yes, we did get a huge influx of RENA numbers that were out of the scope for us, and we did a good job. We got Cashin's Field. That was hard fought. That was hard won. It was fought by locals. We got 52 units, and it's largely because the county came to the table with everything, with so much for us. And so, yes, in terms of numbers for low-income housing, we did good because of that one project. We're missing a lot of missing middle, and we clearly do not have enough housing to fill the need that we have. This isn't unique to Nevada City. It's, all over the state, all over the country, of course, and I'm certainly not suggesting high development. I'm certainly not suggesting any of that, but I think that, this is an opportunity for us to really look at housing, and not in the way that we have looked at housing, which is the status quo, which is we're going to fly under the radar and we're going to create tactics that don't really address housing, like, potential housing, in our plan is on a lot of slopes and not really developable, or the fact that we're including numbers for approved projects that are never going to get built. Like, these are things that we need to have an honest conversation about housing. No, we've not done a good job. Could we do better? Yes, absolutely. And I think that this leads into our next conversation about our general business district. We need to create an ecosystem where all these things are connected and make sense. If we don't have a vibrant downtown, if we don't have living opportunities for people who work in town, we don't have anything. I don't want to be a community that just has tourists. And so I do think that this is an opportunity for us to address housing in a real, meaningful, and creative way where we can infill some of those spaces or relook at projects that haven't been developed and develop in a smart, measured, scaled way for our community.
Hear, hear.
Thanks, Danielle. Yeah, every time that I've been aware of it, that there's been an effort to actually create housing here, it becomes this big debate with fear tactics employed, like, well, who's going to move here? And what are they going to be like? Are they going to understand the city? When my experience has been so many people like me who grew up here have the hardest time staying here because they can't afford to do that. I was lucky enough to pay extremely cheap rent on Commercial Street when I was straight out of high school. And I was able to work and save money and buy a house. And that is a story that doesn't happen here anymore. So of course we can do more than we've been doing, and I hope that we do, and I hope to be a part of that. Shall we get a motion? Or does Doug have something to say?
I might grab it. So of the what do we got? We got 94 units we built. Some of those are Cashin's Field, which was helped by SB 35, so people didn't get their pound of flesh. How many of the ADUs that we built, how many of the units that we built are deed restricted? Are there any, or are they just affordable by design? And what were the other, I mean, we got Cashin's Field, what are these other units that have been built?
The ADUs are counted in the lower income.
So they're all
yeah.
ADUs, basically,
Yes.
right? Okay. And we're not doing deed restrictions on those, they're just affordable by design? I thought we had to have deed restrictions now to account for RENA numbers.
No.
I thought they changed that, I thought they did away with affordable by design a while ago.
No, not that I'm aware of. No.
I might be wrong.
Okay.
Okay. So, you know, I think this is great. We obviously need to keep going down this path. You know, some density might give people anxiety, but we need housing, we need housing, we need housing, you know. And so I really support this, and I appreciate the work that went into it.
Do I have a motion to approve this report for submission to the state as is required?
I think we need public comment, or did we do that?
Yeah.
I called
You
for
did,
public
okay.
comment.
Sorry.
They
I
were
move
shy.
that we accept this report.
Okay.
I'll second that.
We have a motion from the Vice Mayor and a second from Councilmember Fleming. Let's do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sisi?
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jessica.
Start doing that.
Don't go anywhere.
Well, stick around.
Okay.
Fest.
Yes. Seventh cycle will be interesting.
How you feeling? Okay, everyone okay?
Fine. For what?
You need a bio break?
Another bio break?
We're
Okay. look-
business item 7.
We're gonna,
Okay, we're
He's
going to
just
dig in.
Checking. Too many old
Thank you,
men.
thank you, Mayor. I
Too many
appreciate
old
that.
men up here.
Just being
Well,
thoughtful.
you know, my bladder ain't what it is.
Moving on to business item 7, direction to staff to begin preparation of an ordinance amendment pertaining to Nevada City Zoning Code Section 17.40, General Business Zone. Hi, Jessica.
Hello. Jessica Hankins. I am the city planner.
Very familiar.
Yeah. So back in January, I went to the Economic and Community Development Committee to discuss the possible need for an ordinance amendment to the General Business District ordinance of our zoning code. The reason that I initially brought this to the Economic Committee was because of an office use that was trying to go in near the courthouse. And this, the zoning code states that you cannot have an office use on the first floor without a conditional use permit. There are many, many offices near the courthouse, and for a good reason. There are a lot of law offices. There still are some, although those may be moving soon. And the particular office that was going in, it turns out had been kind of grandfathered in because it had been in office for so long. So that particular use was okay, but if that use was discontinued, then they would have had to come back for a conditional use permit. Originally, when that part of the code was written, a use permit was only $100. Now it is upwards of $2,500, something like that. And then some other items came up during that meeting as well. The fact that we have some, I think what what some folks call white windows up at the top of Broad Street, and some of the other concerns that we heard tonight about retail uses on Broad Street and in our downtown core. So staff sought direction from the committee on whether we should go to full council with this as a recommendation to do some updates to this portion of the code, and the committee was supportive of that. So now I'm here before the full council to get direction on whether the council wishes for me to begin amendments. If the council does decide that we will open this up, it would probably be a bit of a process and take many months, is my guess. We would do a full public outreach with this and talk to different stakeholder groups. After doing that and going through some rounds, we would bring this to the Planning Commission for a recommendation to City Council.
Okay.
That's it.
Do it.
So, may I?
Do it, yeah.
So what exactly are we trying to solve? Overbroad geography, outdated use categories, excessive CUP burden, or protection of the retail frontage, or all of the above?
Probably all of the above.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we're doing the amendment, what happens when people apply during that sort of interim process? They're obviously, there's a little, I mean, I guess it would be strategic for them to wait, or if they can't, what happens? It's the old way, right?
Use the existing code.
Yeah, okay. All right, those were my questions.
The fees that you mentioned and how they jumped, that seems pretty egregious and possibly intentional at some point to limit people wanting to go through with it. It's important to me that there's a process to make sure that those fees make sense for the amount of staff work, pay for the staff work, but not prohibit someone from trying their dream, you know?
I think that as a clarification, I think that some of the substantive review of the areas would be separate and distinct from a fee study. And so we'd need to separate that out, and we certainly can take that direction, and then staff can look at that, but we need to separate that in terms of a overall fee study or an individualized fee study, but we can take that direction, but it would be a separate process as well.
Okay. Yeah, and here for the rules of the downtown core not applying to every spot in the GB.
Well, that would fix all the issues that we were dealing with today.
What are we doing here?
I'd like to say a few things.
Please.
This came through our committee, Adam. I think
No, people would want to do it.
I'm going to wait for a second because I'm easily distracted. I've been thinking a lot about vibrancy. We've heard it a lot here tonight. It's, you know, it's a word that's used all the time. It's embedded in our documents. It's shaped our committees. We had an entire committee called the Vibrancy Committee. And it's a word we use as a goal for our downtown. But I think it's fair to ask, like, what do we actually mean by that? Like, what does vibrancy mean? So I looked it up and I have a definition, and the word traces back to the 1890s. So it is Victorian in nature. Vibrancy, the state of being full of energy and life. So if vibrancy means full of life, then I don't think it can be reduced to preservation or aesthetics alone. It has to also include how a place lives. I think that's really important. So I've said this many times. I think as a community, we've done a really good job at telling our gold rush history specifically through preserved facades. And buildings are one thing, and life is another. Those are two separate things. We can preserve a structure from 1885, but you can't freeze the life inside of it in 1885 or even in 2005 and expect it to remain vibrant. So I'm thinking about the 2005 ordinance updates that were hearkened earlier tonight. And just in order to take a little trip back to 2005, think about where were you in 2005? How old were you? I was 25 years old and George W. Bush was president. Online shopping hadn't yet emerged as a viable option. People were still largely shopping in person at brick and mortars, and those stores were not yet competing with an online global market. And so commercial rents were different at that time. Tourism was largely different. The first iPhone didn't come out until 2 years later in 2007. I've got my iPhone 17 right now. One didn't come out until 2007. And retail largely functioned as an economic anchor, and it has for us since then. So I don't think these conditions of 2005, they no longer exist. Retail has drastically changed. Folks in this room know it. And brick and mortars are now in constant competition with online commerce. And I think that successful downtowns are no longer built on just retail alone, but also on experiences, food, art, culture, services, gathering spaces, things that give people a reason to spend time, not just money. I'm thinking about younger generations. I'm with younger people all week. They're not spending money the same ways as older generations. They want experiences. They prioritize things like sustainability and ethical sourcing, reuse, repair, wellness, creativity, community. And I think that that shift matters. We have to consider that as we're considering all of this. We can't simply curate a shopping district anymore. We can't mimic places like Carmel and Santa Fe and other places. Those places are struggling too. We have to steward a new ecosystem. I think that Wolfcraft is a great example of, it's not just a pottery studio, as Leslie mentioned. It's a business rooted in creativity, in skill sharing, and experience. It brings people downtown, not just to buy something, although they often do, but to learn, to make, to connect. Classes sell out. Local artisans get to teach and also are paid. People come back again and again, and money stays in our local economy. And so, to me, that's not the absence of retail, it's retail evolving. It's what we need to do. And so to me, vibrancy in 2026 looks like a downtown that people use, not just a downtown that people visit, that it's mixed, right? A place where you can buy a gift. You can also take a class, and participate in community life. I think it's easy to do the thing that we've always done. That's the easiest thing to do. It's also cheaper than innovation, but it's also really dangerous. We're watching all of our old ways and all of our old systems currently collapse. And if we stay in our old ways, I think we will too. So I think that we can honor our history without being governed by it. I think that we can preserve our architecture without freezing our economy. And I think we can respect the intent of those who came before us while recognizing that our responsibility is to the reality in front of us and the future that we're trying to build, which does look different than our past.
Thanks, Dan.
Wow. My turn?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Better be as good as that.
What do you got, Gary?
Well, I got a number of things. I really dislike this ordinance. I really dislike it a lot. I think it's badly written and it's unclear. I was actually here when they did it, and I get it. Boom times, 10 real estate offices on Broad Street, taking up retail. I get it. That's 20 years ago. You think anything's changed since then? Like just a few things, right? Everything's changed. We have to evolve. Danielle is right about that. But I look at this and I see a map that was designed, and the idea of this ordinance is that it would return pedestrian activity to Broad Street, and then suddenly it's applied to the entire business district, which was this intended or not? I do think I see an arbitrary fee, and I know a fee study needs to be done. In fact, the Nexus study should have been done when this fee was set to demonstrate the actual cost that it takes to produce that fee. That's a law. I think I could check with the attorney. But by law, we can only charge the amount it costs to do something. This was done as a discouragement. And I really, personally, I've been in local government a long time. I really dislike those types of activities. We have to take it on and do it the way it's meant to be done. But there's also a piece here about the changes that are occurring and have been occurring in our community. And all you folks in retail, nothing has been the same since COVID. It just simply has not. One of the biggest changes that many of us have seen in our entire lives. Who do we want to be? Who do we want to be as a downtown? In fact, I have a larger question about who we want to be as a community, which rolls into the housing, which rolls into everything about how we move into the future, because that's what we're here for. We have no choice. We can't go back. We can't fix things, and we cannot hold things in place. There is no status quo. Everything is getting better or getting worse, but it is. Several folks talked about the dynamic tonight. The dynamic is always present. Things are always moving one way or another. And that's where we need to make an effort to manage the emergence of what's happening. One of my favorite quotes, Black Elk wrote a book back in the 1920s, Black Elk Speaks, one of the great Sioux leaders. He has 12 things, but one of his really important things is see the world as it is, not as you wish it were. That's right. So we could wish it a lot, but we have to deal with the reality. And that's what we're here to do. And I really respect my colleagues because we don't turn away from that. So I think that there is, in our future, I think, yes, this needs to be looked at very carefully. What is the mix that we need in downtown? Because it does need to be vibrant, but, I'm an old guy, but, I don't use, it's the vibe, not the vibrancy, the vibe. This is Nevada City, we're talking about the vibe, but I think it came from the same word. But we got to work on that. We've got to figure it out, because I would never pick tourism as a means for running a city. I'm like, God, I've been in a lot of cities.
It's a mix.
But thank goodness we have a city manager that's steeped in economic development. So what are the other options that we have? Because, we have only a couple of horses running here. And what are the opportunities that exist for us to expand that? So I think in the very near future, we have some really important conversations we need to have as a community. We're working out of a really reasonable strategic plan that was developed with a lot of community input, and I think we're going to have to take that on, and that's probably the appropriate place. But I promised the city manager I won't get too far into that and create something that is a nightmare to manage. But we have to deal with this, and thank you for bringing it forward. And also, I just want to comment about how well your staff reports read. They're so good, Jessica. They're so good.
Here.
Yeah, really well done. I'll stop there.
Thanks, Gary. So, public comment? Hi.
Hi, me again, Leslie Barbizette. I am just commenting as a business owner that has paid this fee for a conditional use permit. Starting a business costs a lot of money, especially when you buy a building from 1863 and discover a huge crack in the back wall that wasn't in the inspection. So just saying that there's a lot of money that goes into building a business in this town, and the money that I had to pay to get a conditional use permit would have been better spent. Not that Jessica wasn't amazing throughout all of the things. I loved working with her, and obviously I want her time to be compensated. But I would love that money to be able to put into the building and into the business and renovating. So that's just something to think about with bringing people in that might not have the funds to be able to pay for this. We don't want to discourage people that can't afford it and go somewhere else that doesn't have this fee. So we want innovative ideas that might not be backed by money, but is backed by ideas. So I would encourage getting rid of the fee or making it more reasonable. Thanks.
Thank you. Hi, Lynn.
Hey everyone, I'm Lynn Screwcrude with the Nevada City Chamber of Commerce. I just wanted to take a moment to thank the council for reevaluating this ordinance and to say that we look forward to working with and supporting the council as you move forward with the project, and we're here to be of assistance to help make it something that's valuable and effective for all of our businesses in a modern, changing climate. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn.
Any other public? Hey.
Yeah. I stayed this long, I'm gonna speak. Again, my name is Jess Lesperance, and I'm a resident, and so that's primarily my main POV. But as I've listened to so much really interesting insights and opinions here, it struck me that one of the things that we also might want to hold as a North Star consideration point is building kind of a neighborhood vibe. I think a lot of what healthy downtowns we've been hinting at are also healthy neighborhoods. So having places where kids can go and get tutored, or having places where you can go and read, and just being really expansive about what makes a community healthy, and maybe the lens of expanding from just retail to more of a neighborhood might be a very lucrative mental model. Thank you.
Thanks, Jess. Lucrative mental model, I love that. Don't know if it'd be lucrative.
Any other public comment on this? Okay. I'm looking forward to this process.
It's gonna be fun.
Mayor, if I may.
Yeah.
I just want to point out, the staff reports are fantastic from Jessica as well, but I also want to remind council that she is a department of about one, and debatably 1/4 person, sometimes 1.5 people. So there is a lot to do here. I think that the direction for this specific thing is a good start, but as mentioned, there is a fee study, there's a general plan update that needs to be done. There is design guidelines, there's a whole host of things to come. So I think as the process evolves, we're starting in a place that makes a lot of sense. It's probably the hardest place to start, but it'll really drive the conversations around what do we want to be, which then will drive a little bit more of the economic development side as we then complete some of the zoning code updates and other things that want to be implemented, so that then there's no barriers to that, whatever it is that we want to be in terms of driving business. So it goes hand in hand. So I think it's a good start, a good direction, and we're in good hands with Jessica.
Yeah.
Excellent. We might need a consultant.
Or realistic expectations.
That was more where I was going.
All right. There's no other discussion. Do I have a motion?
So it's just direction. And I think we heard that we got direction and gave direction. I think that's what happened.
I have direction.
All right, moving on to reports and future agenda.
Jessica, you're done.
She's like, wow.
Just so.
Do you want the city manager report?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So just a couple of things I like to share as I'm onboarding and getting to know the community where I've spent some of my time. I have been to both the wastewater and the water plant, so I got a really in-depth tour there. So that was really good. I am scheduled to see the train museum on Friday.
Excellent.
And I am scheduled for an in-depth visit next Friday for the Historical Society, which I don't know how many of you know this, but I am a history nerd, so I'm very excited about it. And I only booked 2 hours, so we'll see. I'll probably have to be back. Staff has been busy this week. We did launch a soft launch of our online utility payments. I believe you were briefed on that previous. So that is happening and in existence. We will push that out when we have full staffing back for our admin team. So as people call in, we have the customer support needed. So we'll do a press release, that kind of thing. But it is launched, it is there. People can make online payments and receive online bills. And then we are we will finalize several grants that we're applying for this week and into next week. So one was for the Pocket Park It's a county grant, so we have applied in one place and now we need the matching funds. So we're hoping those two things come about, as well as a T-Mobile grant and Prop 64 grant, which is very different than the Prop 64 grant that we have now. It's very much based on enforcement, so the chief has been working on that with our consultant. So a lot behind the scenes kind of planning for the future and getting the city manager up to speed. And then we're going right into budget, which is my favorite part.
Is it really?
I haven't learned to read your face yet.
Yeah.
Was that a true fact?
I like to know where all the money is.
Yeah, that's good.
We do too.
Yeah.
But favorite?
Yeah, no, maybe a little sarcastic.
Okay, just check. Righty. Anyone have stuff to report?
I've been away at my mother's 90th extravaganza birthday, and I'm done.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to her.
Yeah, she's an age.
I attended the Resiliency Project meeting, which is as part of the Climate Action Plan by the Board of Supervisors. They created the Resiliency Project. Was it you that asked me about the Resiliency Project? It's comprised of a lot of local agencies and organizations. Right now, the county's propping it up. It was part of the Sierra Business Council, but that money's expiring. The county's going to pick it up and carry it. Has NID, it's the resource, and if we keep at it, we'll figure out what we're doing. It could be a clearinghouse. It's an information exchange. It's we'll see as it goes, but I have remained committed to that.
Thanks for attending.
We'll see. I'll stop. Other than I love that beautiful little baby that was here, but I'm sorry, my granddaughter's visiting and I already have the world's only perfect child. Here.
I attended the County Transit Commission meeting, which is bus routes. And after that meeting, I noticed that I believe the sign for the bus stop at Bennett and Broad is misplaced. It faces Bennett Street and the stop is actually on Broad. And we built a lovely ramp as part of our Y Street renovation so that people with wheelchairs and mobility issues could get to it, but they can't see the sign from there. So I think that should be moved, and I've talked to Shane about that, and I've talked to the manager as well. At the NTSC Commission, which is the Nevada County Transportation Committee, which is roads.
Commission, yeah, it is a commission.
They said that they have gone back to the state funding for the multimodal corridor, and they are going to remove the Maydew roundabout. People will be happy to hear that. They're not going to do much at the top of Coyote Street because they think whatever they do there is going to get completely erased when the county courthouse gets put in. And then in the Caltrans report at the end of that, they mentioned that they are going to start looking into putting in something to improve the intersection of Uren 2049 and the on-ramp from High Street, to which I said, hallelujah.
Fantastic.
That's it. Very good.
Were you chair?
I was vice chair.
Oh, I thought you were chair already.
It's kind of like being vice mayor.
I went to the Public Arts Commission meeting last month. Their next meeting will be Wednesday, April 1st, where they will engage in a workshop amongst themselves, not at a community workshop, but just to dig in about purpose and vision and moving forward with the commission. I'm excited for them in that. The mayor will represent me as in that workshop and speak to the vision and purpose for the ordinance. Yeah, and so thank you for doing that. And then also I attended Baby Avery's honoring of life and death. And I will say that I believe that Melina and Nicholas, his parents, gave the community a tremendous gift in allowing us to witness such a beautiful and heartbreaking ritual around letting their baby go. And I'm grateful to have been a part of it and been in the community around that.
Thank you, Danielle. Thanks for being there. I attended the ERC meeting earlier this month. They've got their tour of Nevada County coming up with a couple of Nevada City stops. I've been on that trip every year since I joined the council, and it's always interesting, and I always learn something new about our area, in some cases Nevada City itself. Had the opportunity to visit Firehouses 2 and 5 and get the full tour there, and they made me dress like them, and I felt very small and ridiculous. There are pictures, you will not see them. And then I went on a couple of calls with them, which was very intense, and I was impressed with their work ethic and the seriousness. They take their very serious job. Good guys, and super interesting, very fun. And I asked, have you asked other mayors to do this? And they said no. So what gives? And spoke to some third graders about public service and what it's like to be mayor, and they asked good questions, and I did not bring my guitar. They asked good questions, and their comments made me feel like the future is in good hands. And hopefully 10 years' time, someone closing in on 50 years old isn't going to be one of the youngest council members. Yeah, thank you. That's what I got. Do I have a motion?
I have one more thing, which is I wanted to acknowledge the passing of Andrew Rust Drew, who is a major member of the LGBTQ community here in Nevada City and Nevada County. He served us well, and his passing is much mourned.
Thank you for that, Lou. I move that we adjourn.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilmember
Yes.
Fernandez, a second from Councilmember Fleming. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned at 8:50.
Thank you, council. Thank